Hey, and welcome to the Thodcast, episode 6. And we've got a special treat for you today. I am Philip Elke, your host of the Thodcast, Conversations about Animation. And I'm joined by my brother. Hey, Dawson.
Hey, Philip.
What's up today, Dawson?
Hi. What's up? Here to talk about animation and a topic that you will no doubt introduce in good time.
Yeah, we're also joined by a special guest today, Jody.
A guest?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm so excited to be here in LA with you guys and to be able to talk about this. It was definitely unexpected, but in a serendipitous way. I'm excited. It's perfect.
Definition of serendipitous. Where were you coming from?
New Zealand. Yeah, I was just over there for a bit. And this was my
doing
layover.
there?
I was just taking a break from work and soaking in all that New Zealand has to offer with the emphasis on sheep and alpacas.
I hear a lot of people do this, and it sounds like it might be one of the most important things anyone needs to do is take a break to New Zealand.
Yeah, it definitely was amazing and the best trip ever. Honestly, you guys need to get over there if you haven't gone before.
Would you say it was magical?
I would say it is the definition of magical. If there is a country that falls under that, it would be New Zealand. It looks like it fell out of a storybook, which is why I can see why so many people film movies over there.
Did you see any Lord of the Rings sites before Philip goes on? Did you tour any or visit anything specifically Lord of the Rings related?
I didn't. You know, we stumbled on some of the accident, but no, I didn't go on any of the tours because I haven't seen all the movies, and it's not really my thing.
Oh my! Well, we won't even go there. But goes to New Zealand, doesn't visit Hobbiton. Okay. Well, anyway, that awesome.
Well, speaking of magical, the topic of today is a little different. Normally on this show, we talk about a show or a movie, but today we're actually talking about the Disney
An
princesses.
idea.
What's that?
An idea, like Rome. It's an idea. Concept.
An idea.
Well, this image just popped into my head, this imaginary montage of when in the trailers for the original Avengers, when Nick Fury says, there was an idea, and then it shows all the Avengers popping up. I can imagine Walt Disney saying, there was an idea, and all the Disney princesses flourishing.
Yeah. Well, so how many princesses are there, Dawson?
7 princesses of heart.
Okay.
They're the only ones that matter. No.
Wait, no, that's not correct.
Well, we happen to have the expert in the studio, so.
Well, Jody, he's making a video game reference. I don't know if you know. The video game Kingdom Hearts, Dawson's a little bit obsessed, but it's probably a little bit obscure to some of the people.
I am not obsessed because I have not played any of the spin-off titles, only 1 and 2.
That is true. There are people who will get mad at you if you talk about Kingdom Hearts and haven't played the spin-offs.
Yeah, well, they're the ones who are wrong. Like, it's imagine that there were like 100 Star Wars prequels, and in order to be a true fan, you had to watch them all. Just kidding. Anyway, no. Before we get into Kingdom Hearts, yes, we have. How many princesses are there? We do have the expert in the studio, like we said.
Well, I think today we're basing it off of 14. I guess that's what we all did, but it really depends if you want to count Disney Junior or not, but there's more than 14. And I mean, Elsa's a queen, so she should actually be pulled off the list.
There's no right answer here, but we each made our own
I don't know if
lists.
that's true.
Well, we made our own lists in which we rank the Disney princesses. And I mean, we don't have to emphasize necessarily placement on the ranks.
How they got there.
In my case, like, I love all these characters, and like this phenomenon.
Hashtag would date.
What's that?
Hashtag would date.
Only the ones we would date. But this social phenomenon of the Disney princesses is something that's definitely worth discussing and has special relevance right now because of the new movie that's out, Dawson. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Did you see it?
I did see Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I loved it.
Jody, did you?
I have not yet, but I plan to see it very soon. I've heard great things.
Yeah, well, that's what we'll be talking about next week on the show. But this week, much of what has been a buzz about the new Ralph Breaks the Internet is the scene in which basically all the Disney princesses are together on screen for the first time, and in like a mainline Disney animated film, which is pretty crazy.
And they did it so well. Like, I was so perfect, just lounging like normal girls, just like Jody. What you do on a regular basis is have all the princesses hanging out. And
well, yeah, we have to get into Jody and what you do as for a living. It's pretty fascinating. Tell the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I own like a children's entertainment company. And basically what we do is we travel across the United States and provide children's entertainment in the form of princess events. We call it the Fairy Tale Ball. And while they're not necessarily Disney princesses, they're based very closely on popular renditions of the Disney princesses. And we get to, entertain kids and families from Las Vegas all the way up to Detroit, back down to Florida. So it's a lot of fun. I've been doing that for 5 years, and it's obviously very rewarding, and I love princesses, so it's the best job ever.
That is incredible. That, yeah, something like this would inspire you to pursue this level of commitment to something. It's just that just totally speaks to the power of these characters, and something we want to get into in today's discussion for sure. But back to the question of like, who are the Disney princesses? How many are there? Are there other princesses that who qualifies as a Disney princess? And there's so many different definitions.
Questions that have vexed philosophers for years.
This is the kind of heavy hitting we get into on the Thodcast, everyone. You better be prepared.
Well, that's because you said rank the princesses, and me being like, I need to be like creative or whatever. And I'm racking my brain. I'm like, I feel like there's so much out there that isn't necessarily obvious. Like not counting live action. I wasn't really thinking hard about live action films, but came up with a short list of honorable mentions too, because there are a lot of girls who aren't ladies or whatever, lovely, fine, strong women in the Disney canon that aren't exactly princesses. But yes, as you said, like what qualifies. Anyway, yeah, what did we come up with?
Well, I came up with a list of 14.
And these were all the ones who ended up in Ralph Breaks the Internet, right?
That is right. And then Vanellope would be number 15 if she were, included, if I decided to include her within the official canon, which I don't put her on my list, and I can explain why. But of the princesses who appeared in Ralph Breaks the Internet, there are the main 14. And these coincide generally with the Disney Princess consumer products line. Dawson, you're probably familiar with that. You're saying you were at Target earlier today?
Yes, and there's a whole Disney Princess section. And when I was shipping there's a small corner in the back room where we package items and ship them. One of my coworkers decided to grace us with his rendition of "Do you want to build a snowman?" where off key he repeated, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And that's it. Just that one line for the whole. It was beautiful.
So let's just quickly outline what characters are included in the official Disney Princess line. And, the answer might surprise you. For example, Elsa and Anna from Frozen are not in the official Disney Princess line.
What is the official Disney Princess line?
It began in the early 2000s. It was started by a Disney Consumer Products executive. Disney Consumer Products chairman Andy Mooney conceived the idea of building a product line around these specific characters.
You've got there's three classic princesses and then 3 Renaissance era princesses.
And then Mulan and Pocahontas, whose movies weren't quite as successful, but still fairly prominent. And I also think, I don't have here necessarily to confirm, but the Tinkerbell was included in the very first version.
She's popular, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, because you say Anna and Elsa aren't in the main product line, but I mean their merchandise is absolutely all over the place. We're inundated in it.
Yeah, because Frozen has its own product line.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever see like Snow White, Cinderella, and Elsa on the same backpack. They're definitely always Elsa and Anna or the others. They're never combined.
Mm-hmm.
That explains so much. Okay. Yeah. Wow. I learned something huge today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I do have here. The original lineup consisted of Snow White, Cinderella, Aurora, Ariel, Belle, Jasmine, Pocahontas, Mulan, and Tinkerbell.
Well, Samara used to have posters and like bed sheets of all.
Our younger sister, she was into the Disney. That was like the early days of Disney Princess.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my days of Disney Princess. Those were the glory days.
Yeah, that's what inspired what you do
Absolutely.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think I had to sleep in Samara's room like once or twice. I don't remember why, but I slept very well, and there was something very satisfyingly pink about everything. I don't know, but I was very little. It was
Well,
a nice
also,
change from the dinosaurs.
So since this, early lineup, it has changed, and they've added Tiana, and then Rapunzel, and also Merida, the first non-Disney animation princess.
So the updated consumer line, they have updated those original 6 or 7 or 8.
Just not Frozen or Moana.
Do you think that's coming, or is Frozen too much of a powerhouse on its own, and Moana is just too new?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
Possible that Moana might join the Disney Princess line, but Frozen, they're probably going to wait and see how that franchise pans out. What do you think, Jody?
I think I actually heard something about this at one point, though I can't pinpoint my reference. I don't think they're planning on bringing Elsa and Anna into the group until they stop making so much money on their own. There's really no reason to combine them. But as far as Moana goes, I'm sure that eventually they'll throw her in. I don't think she was as much of a life-altering character. I mean, but I'm not sure. I mean, in 10 years, yeah, they could definitely pull everyone into one big thing. I just know with Elsa and Anna, it's not in anywhere near future.
That's wow. That makes me wonder, like, you're talking about 10 years in the future, like what's coming next? Like what princess will they come up with next?
Yeah, and I mean that question is certainly implicated in the new movie Ralph Breaks the Internet with the inclusion of Vanellope. But before we get into that, can any of you name the last piece of Disney princess merchandise you purchased?
Absolutely. I think I just got a thing of goldfish crackers, but they have the Disney princesses on them.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have been the goldfish, but I mean, they're all over food. You can get frozen cereal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure I've bought that within the last week.
And I'm talking Disney princess specifically, not like Frozen or Moana.
Oh, Disney princess specifically.
But okay. Yeah, the actual product line. But you're right. That probably was a Disney princess branded box of goldfish crackers.
I think they were on my bananas. Pretty sure I had a Belle banana the other day.
Nice.
Yeah. I know what mine was. It was Campbell's chicken noodle soup. They have Rapunzel and Belle on the cover of it right now.
Okay. For me, Jelly Bellies.
Oh.
I got some Disney princess Jelly Bellies at one point.
That throwback to Christmas of a couple years ago.
That's maybe the only Disney princess item that I've ever gotten. Maybe except for some like pillows I got for a friend for her birthday.
Otherwise, I was just going to say that I just bought this Slytherin journal, and Harry Potter will be owned by Disney eventually, which will make Hermione a Disney princess. And she's probably going to marry Tom Felton in real life, which means that I can correlate Hermione to the Slytherin journal and
yes,
proactively nice. Call this a Disney princess product.
Nice. Well, it says here that Walt's nephew, Roy E. Disney, objected to the creation of the line as the company had long avoided mingling characters from its classic fairy tales in other narratives, worrying that it would weaken the individual mythologies.
So Roy cared about individual mythologies at one point.
Well, he always did.
Like the integrity of each individual story, whereas, it's easy to, we're so inundated in it now, it's just so easy to see them as a product, at least.
Yeah, I mean, the Disney princess phenomenon is as much a exercise in consumer branding as it is a social construct.
Well, and this is why I do want to bring up Kingdom Hearts very quickly and not go on too long of a tangent, because you have, man, to me, like, Kingdom Hearts summarizes Disney, like, everything. So, I mean, and especially as a little kid, like, you know, I would have thought, oh, princesses aren't cool. Like, I'm a 6-year-old boy when this game comes out and when I play it. And I'm like, princesses, oh, that's girly or whatever. Well, then I start up this game with and there's this opening cutscene with beautiful music and beautiful shots of these really cool looking, like, anime style characters. And there's like these dark monsters and they're wielding these keys as swords, and it's action packed and it's really like abstract and kind of surreal, and he like floats through this ocean of darkness. Your main character, he's falling through the sea of darkness, and then he lands on this like glowing platform, and all these like doves fly away, and it's like majestic and magisterial, and you're like, where is he? Is he in a dream? What's going on? And the camera pans up, and he's on this beautiful circular stained glass window floating in an empty void, and freaking Aurora is on it, like this stained glass image of Princess Aurora. And it was like the most stunning and captivating thing I'd ever seen. And then you start playing the game and you're just walking around on this platform in this void, and this voice is like asking you questions about like who you are and like what kind of person, what kind of weapon do you wield. And then these stairs appear from this platform to another platform, and you go up these 6 platforms, and on each of them is a Disney princess. So it's like this line that you're talking about, this consumer product line. There's this world out there there's this idea in the game of all these worlds being connected, and that each of these 6 princesses, and there's the 7th princess of heart, which is Kairi, who is my #1 favorite Disney princess of all time. She's amazing. And that they're within their hearts is the key to unlocking Kingdom Hearts, which is a whole profound idea. But anyway, so that's where the princesses started to really mean a lot to me after experiencing them in this way of like, I don't know, it just, so anyway, that's my rant. That's why. So yeah, so that's interesting.
Well, yeah, Kingdom Hearts probably opened the door for you to come to appreciate the character of the Disney princess. As you know, I suppose like a lot of young boys, it's like kind of repugnant.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's why they started changing the titles for the Disney princess movies. For a long time, the titles would be based off of the name of the Disney princess, like Cinderella or Snow White. Their movie was called Cinderella or Snow White. But then they realized that young boys would be more likely to watch and connect with the characters if they changed the title to things like Frozen instead of calling it Elsa, or calling it Brave instead of Merida. So that is a big thing that they changed with the princesses throughout time, is making it more appealing, not just to, you know, little girls and but to little boys too, is changing those titles so it'd be less like gender, I guess, I don't know what you'd call it, gender.
It is interesting, specific. Like yeah, how superficial.
Tangled instead of Rapunzel. Yeah.
I have always wondered like about that trend actually, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, like, yeah, you see a title, and a title is a girl's name, and you go ew. But obviously, any boy who actually watches those movies enjoys them. I mean, I certainly did. Little Mermaid might have been the only one that I like didn't want to admit I liked for whatever reason.
Oh no, she's #2 on my list.
Well, and now she's like what is she on my list? She's high on Philip's list too, and she's number. Oh gosh, 6 on mine.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see The Little Mermaid all the way through until fairly recently.
Really?
You resented it. You absolutely resented it. You're the reason I didn't want to like it, because you hated it so much. Amazing how people can change, isn't it, Jody?
He's really grown as a person.
What 12-year-old me would just be baffled if he knew that.
You have the tats to prove it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I have tattoos of Disney princesses. You knew this, Jody, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well.
Yes, I love it. I think that's so cool, and I would have never guessed in high school that you would have done something like that. But I mean, I obviously respect it to the fullest.
I'll go into more detail on that at some point, but it's just Anna and Elsa, because Frozen's my favorite movie of all time, favorite Disney movie. It's just something that's very personal to me, and part of why I wanted to go into discussing animation on a podcast.
Kingdom Hearts is very personal to me. We can't talk about that. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you want to make your case as to why Kairi qualifies as a Disney princess, you're more than welcome. But so I'm going to go through just a quick list of the ones that I have that I included on my list. And then feel free to chime in if there are any we should add. We should all just give our lists right now, and then we can go into talking about the princesses individually. I'll start off. Yeah, I'll start off here. So my number one is, and this is totally subjective, by the way. I gauged it by just like, basically writing down the names and then measuring my emotional response to.
Just kind of like a gut thing for me.
Yeah. Well, number one, Elsa. Number two, Anna. Number three, Rapunzel. Number four, Pocahontas. Number five, Ariel. Number six, Belle. Number seven, Snow White. Number eight, Aurora. Number nine, Cinderella. Number 10, Jasmine. Number 11, Moana. Number 12, Mulan. Number 13, Tiana. And number 14, Merida.
Wonderful. Jody, you want to go next, or should
we? Definitely. So I feel like mine kind of changes on my mood. So like my top five probably rotates, but it's Rapunzel, Ariel, Belle, Anna, and Jasmine. So those are my top five, and I think they've always been my top five for the most part. And then I go on number 6 is Pocahontas, then Moana, and then Aurora and Cinderella are probably tied, and then it's Elsa, Mulan, Snow White, Tiana, and Merida. So we have the same ending one of Merida there. But to be honest, I haven't seen the movie Brave, so I don't know for sure if Merida's my least favorite, but I am guessing she'd be my least favorite.
I don't want this to be regarded as a knock against Merida either, because she was my favorite princess in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
She had the best moment.
Here's the question though, does Merida sing in her movie? She doesn't sing in her movie, so I feel like she shouldn't even be on the list. All Disney princesses should sing a song, and I don't think Merida does.
Well, but Merida has a Scottish lady sing a song for her while she's riding her horse along the waterfall. So does that, I think that count?
I'll have to watch it. And then maybe I'll have to change my list up a little bit.
And then she doesn't even talk really in the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet. You'll see for yourself.
Well, that wasn't even really, it's in the trailers, but like that wasn't even a thing in her movie. Like you could easily understand her, played by the brilliant actress Kelly MacDonald, in Ralph as well as Brave.
Yeah, they just made this decision to have Merida in Ralph. Like they made a joke about Scottish people, which was so I just found that funny. Like there was no reason to have her talk that way. Like let's exaggerate this character's accent for no reason other than this is actually how real Scottish people sound. Mm-hmm. And that's funny. I don't know. So it was, or how some real Scottish people sound. Mm-hmm. I've met them. Okay, I'll go through my list quick then. And I haven't seen Moana, so I don't know if she'd be my least favorite. I'm actually sure I'd love her. I'm a big fan of the Mutiny on the Bounty series, and there's a Pacific Islander princess who I really like in that story. So I'm actually really shocked I haven't seen Moana yet.
Well, if you're going by the criterion you briefly mentioned before the recording, what would you say?
What do you mean criteria? Hotness? Oh gosh. Purely ranked.
Oh yeah.
Then she's up there. She's absolutely up there. No, so okay. My list is number 1, Kairi, the 7th princess of heart. She's the key to all this. But if you want to discount her, then you can just forget about that and proceed with the following as number 1. Okay, Belle. Number 3, Eilonwy, Black Cauldron. No one ever thinks of her.
Oh, anyway. That's an awesome choice.
We'll probably maybe get into that. I want to get into. I want to know if anyone's cosplayed Eilonwy at any of your events.
Yeah, actually, well, I have friends who have cosplayed her before, but I never thought of her as a princess before. Good choice.
No one does. But yeah, no, I looked up a scene from the Black Cauldron today, and one of the first comments that popped up was, and she wasn't included in the Ralph 2 lineup.
Oh no.
And because everyone forgets about her. So anyway, so thanks for liking my choice, Jody. Then I'm all chuffed. Number 4, Rapunzel. Number 5, Jasmine. Number 6, Ariel. Number 7, Pocahontas. Number 8, Mulan. 9, Aurora. 10, Tiana. 11, Merida. 12, Anna. 13, Elsa. 14, Cinderella. And 15, Snow White.
Oh, how did Anna get so far down on your list?
It's nothing personal against them. I just
Hotness.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not wild. I'm just not wild about them. But they're great. They're great. They're absolutely great. Anyway.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
The first time I heard Anna's voice, I immediately thought of you, Jody.
Oh, that is honestly the biggest compliment I've ever had ever, and now we have it recorded so I can play that compliment to myself over and over again.
That's so
yeah,
sweet.
that's exciting. She's awesome. Yeah, she is one of my favorites.
Can you give us a few lines of?
Oh my gosh, no, honestly, I would hate to misquote it, but I love Kristen Bell, and I think she was the perfect voice for Anna. I think it's the most relatable character. If we were doing a list of most relatable princesses, she definitely would have been number 1. And I think a lot of that has to do with who voiced her, because Kristen Bell is the most, I would say, approachable celebrity out there right now. Like, you want to befriend. But sorry that you put her at the end, Dawson.
No, I don't know much about Kristen Bell. I relatable in the sense that, like, her arc is so cool because for the first like half of the movie, she falls in love right away, standard Disney princess, but then really does go on a journey and grows. And so there's that relatability of like everyone getting head over heels for love, but then meeting a guy who like is cool and is like, why are you did that? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess. And then is really out there for her sister. And I haven't seen the film in a while, so I don't remember every bit of it. But no, she's great. She's cool. And Elsa's cool too. She's kind of stoic. She sings a pretty song. Because this is personal for me, I adore Mandy Moore's voice so much. So every time Rapunzel sings, I just melt. Brush and brush and brush my hair. Like oh man. Kills me. And I find her Rapunzel really relatable. I mean, I wasn't trapped in a tower till I was 16, but anyone who's ever been like cooped up in one place for a long time and really wants to get out and explore. And I love that scene Rapunzel when she's like, it keeps cutting back and forth. She's so excited to be like rebelling, but then she's crying and I'm the worst daughter ever. Like that's extremely relatable and fun. But
well, maybe we should frame this in reverse chronological order then. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right. So, and let's just then take the moment to briefly talk about Vanellope. And Jody, you haven't seen any of the Wreck-It Ralph movies. You haven't seen the first one, right?
I haven't seen it, but I have a fun fact. I have a fun fact for Wreck-It Ralph 2. I didn't even have to look it up. When we were in Nevada, I was at the mall and I bumped into Paige O'Hara, which is the voice of Belle. And I recognized her right away because I'm obviously a huge fan of all things Disney princess. And she was going there for an art show and we started talking to her. Yes, Paige O'Hara. And we started talking to her for a little bit. She was gracious enough with her time to honestly talk with us for like a half hour. And we asked her, what her most current project was. And she said that originally that little scene with the Disney princesses that we saw in the original like teaser trailer that came out, she said originally that was pretty much it. But since that little clip went so viral and everyone was talking about it so much, they quickly updated the script to include more princess like dialogue and animation. So I haven't seen the final version.
I wonder if they based the ending off. I wonder if that came after the trailer was released. No,
she said the movie was complete and that they decided after the great response from that trailer that the producers decided to put in more of the Disney princess thing, which I'm surprised they wouldn't have thought of that from the beginning, because we're also nostalgic and like want to relive our childhoods. But yeah, that's my fun fact about Wreck-It Ralph 2, is that there weren't supposed to be so many minutes of princesses, but you guys can take it from there.
No, that is amazing. How can Paige O'Hara not be up to more? Like, how can she not be working more?
I mean, I'm sure she's up to more, but that was kind of like the fun thing that she was telling us about. She's actually a painter, and she sells her paintings, and
just like Jim Carrey, all the best artists, they become crazy painters. I want to go to a painting party with Paige O'Hara and Jim Carrey.
Oh gosh.
And
Ralph as Bob Ross.
Oh my.
Oh no.
That's a moment in the film that just is to die for. Yeah, there's a lot of moments in that film just to die for. But wow, cool.
We'll refrain from spoiling anything just yet, but definitely go into full spoilers next week when we review Ralph Breaks the Internet. But to get into it, like, Wreck-It Ralph was released in 2012, and it introduced us to a new character who is technically a Disney princess in the form of Vanellope von Schweetz, voiced by Sarah Silverman. And do you know anything about the comedian Sarah Silverman?
I don't.
I do. Doesn't she talk about America? Does she not have a show where she talks about America? This is something that's real, I know, but I can't quite remember what she calls it. I'm not a big fan of hers, to be honest. I think she's a little bit too
She's
silly.
kind of coarse. Yeah, she's definitely like off brand from Disney typically, but a lot of their voice actors are, they all do more adult.
When I think of Vanellope von Schweetz's voice applied to a like crass adult comedian, that sounds like the most obnoxious thing in the world to me. But like, I love her. I love the way her voice works for the character in the films. No offense, Sarah Silverman.
Well, I think it's called I Love You, America.
That's it. That's what I've seen her in clips of. That I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I do like her as a voiceover. Her voice is very unique, and it works really well for the character. I just don't like her as a person. Can I say that on here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
She's pretty outspoken.
Delete it.
She's pretty outspoken politically. And yeah,
I haven't met you yet, Sarah, so I don't like to make an opinion about people until I meet them, but you put yourself out there for people to have opinions about you, so
I'm pretty sure she's a nice person, in reality.
Most people are.
Yeah. The character, of course, she's supposedly 9 years old. That's according to the director and Sarah Silverman. The director is Rich Moore, by the way, of Wreck-It Ralph.
Precocious 9-year-old, goodness.
Well, according to John Lasseter, executive producer, she is 12 years old. It's a little bit of conflict.
That makes more sense to me,
but ultimately she's a video game character. So she's not
she's
like
an adult in a child's body, frankly. Like I guess.
So yeah, what like would seem to disqualify her from being an official Disney princess in my mind is the fact that she's a virtual reality character and not like an actual human.
Right. And she exists in this meta universe that's like the real world where Disney is a thing and Amazon's a thing and all the princesses are a thing. It's like, yeah, she's outside of it. She's sort of.
Yeah, I didn't include her on my list, and if I did, I would probably still put her at the bottom. Not because I dislike her, but because
would not date. Yeah. She's a minor.
Well,
and she's virtual and a minor. Maybe this is legal in Japan, but like
I'm gonna mention the ages of all these princesses, and you'll be maybe surprised when you hear some.
Shocked. They're super young. They're super young.
I mean, Aurora's 16. I know that much, but anyway.
Hi. Whoa, ladies! I can explain. See, I'm a princess too. Wait, what? Yeah, Princess Vanellope von Schweetz of the Sugar Rush von Schweetzes. I'm sure you've heard of us, so it'd be embarrassing for you if you haven't.
What kind of a princess are you?
What kind?
Do you have magic hair?
No.
Magic hands?
No.
Do animals talk to you?
No.
Were you poisoned?
No.
Cursed?
No.
Kidnapped or enslaved?
No. Are you guys okay? Should I call the police? Then I have to assume you made a deal with an underwater sea witch where she took your voice in exchange for a pair of human legs. No. Good Lord, who would do that?
Have you ever had have daddy issues?
I don't even have a mom.
Neither do we! And now for the million-dollar question. Do people assume all your problems got solved because a big, strong man showed up?
Yes, what is up with that?
She is a princess!
So of course the next princess is Moana, and that movie came out in late 2016, directed by Disney legendary directors Ron Clements and John Musker. But Dawson, you have not seen Moana.
Have not. I'm afraid I have no opinion.
Shoot. Well,
The Alan Tudyk chicken sounds really cool, but that's all I know. Oh, and I've seen the shiny scene.
Okay.
And that scene.
Oh no, really? That's
Especially,
probably one of the worst scenes in the movie.
I'm-
But it's
I'm
the guy
guessing.
from Flight of Conchord, so it's kind of funny.
Mhm.
I'm glad I know that. That'll make it better. And,
It works.
In context, I'm sure it makes sense. So yeah, but anyway.
I mean, it's unfortunate we didn't have, we couldn't have taken more time to prep and brush up on all of the, but like, it's been a while since I've seen Cinderella. So like, I'm not totally up on a lot of these things either. My better reference for Cinderella would be the live action version, to be honest. But
I did see the old classic Cinderella surprisingly recently, but
okay. Yeah, so Moana on my list is number 11. Where'd she appear on yours?
Moana for me is in that second group of 10. I think she's number
Mm-hmm.
7. And I really, really liked her movie. I thought obviously the music was amazing. I don't know if I went into the movie with a weird idea of what the ocean represented and who Moana represented. So that might have like put a weird taste in my mouth. I've only seen it once. But I mean, I love her hair, I love her songs, I love everything. But someone told me before I went to it that she was supposed to be Hillary Clinton and the ocean was the glass ceiling and she's breaking through that line.
Oh,
So like the whole time I'm watching it, I was trying to make these comparisons.
that sounds like the worst way to see him.
I know.
Mhm.
So it was kind of, the movie for me was a little bit ruined because I thought Moana was supposed to be whatever.
Nothing's
I liked it.
Nothing's ever gonna be that allegorically cut and dry, but oh man, wow.
So I don't know. I feel like I'm probably not, I should probably watch it again with a clearer head because I was looking for symbolism where there probably like wasn't. But I love her. I love her character. She doesn't stand out as amazing, but she doesn't fall back at the end. She's really strong. And all of the newer princesses, all of the princesses are strong in their own way. But I mean, one thing I didn't really like that they did with Moana, and I'll just talk about it real quick, is they really pushed for her to emphasize that she wasn't a princess. There's a lot of like scenes where I think The Rock says something about like, he's making fun of her and calling her princess, and she's really like adamant that she isn't a princess. And I thought that was like unnecessary. Like they're trying to make fun of the stereotype of princesses when really they should just embrace that a princess can do those things. And I don't know, I didn't really like that part of her.
She's a daughter of a chief, right?
Right. So I'm not a princess, I'm a whatever
It's the
warrior.
Pocahontas thing. I mean, they're both, princess. And Vanellope von Schweetz actually in Wreck-It Ralph, what you just said is kind of what happens where she like, there's a moment where she appears in a gown and looks like a princess, but then she disrobes on screen. That's not what I meant to say. Then she gets out of that get up and goes back to her normal thing. And Ralph calls her a princess and she's like, yeah, I know I am a princess, but I'm still the same old me. And I'm like,
I love that.
That's really nice. Yeah.
That I would have liked. I think Moana's a little more like push back against that title, and I don't think there was really a need to do that, but I'm sure they were just trying to accommodate some kind of audience member that would want her to not be a princess,
Yeah, she's very like capable, like just performing physical tasks and intellectual things like navigation.
She's a natural born navigator, right? I saw that on packaging today, so I know something about Moana.
And I don't know if it qualifies as magical powers, but she's able to interact with the ocean or the spirit of the ocean. So
she's a waterbender?
Yeah, I mean, so she's kind of like Elsa and Rapunzel, I suppose.
Magic hair, yeah. Rapunzel
yeah.
has that magic hair. I never thought about that the last few that came out, they have like a power. Huh.
Huh.
and compared to the ones in the past. So
True.
I never thought of.
None of the Renaissance princesses have powers. I mean, Pocahontas. Well, Little Mermaid's.
No, somebody,
Um,
sometimes people bring them power.
And she's voiced by Ali Cravalho, a Hawaiian actress. I guess Moana's nationality would be Polynesian. It's set in the Pacific Ocean, but several thousand years ago. So not necessarily in any kind of specific time frame. She's 16 years old, and yeah, she's interacts with a Polynesian god, a demigod, or she
demigod.
befriends a god.
Though she befriends The Rock,
Mm-hmm.
because who wouldn't? Does Kevin Hart show up as like a little demigod in the movie? I'm Maui.
I don't know.
Let's somehow make a penis joke, because that just has to happen every time those two get together. Anyway.
Yeah, Kevin Hart. He's over at Illumination.
Oh yeah. Anyway. We won't
All
talk
right.
about them. Anyway.
Well, we'll move on to the next one from 2013's Frozen. We'll just go oldest, youngest. Princess and eventually Queen Elsa. She's 21.
She's the oldest at 21.
Well, she's the oldest of the princesses. That is correct. Norwegian in nationality, or Arendelle is like the made-up kingdom, but it's geographically centered in Norway. Voiced, of course, by Idina Menzel, famous Broadway performer and singer. And I know, Jody, you were saying something earlier about how Elsa should no longer technically be a Disney princess.
Yes, it's actually very funny because I never thought of it that way before, but at the events that we host, we announce all the princesses and we call her the Snow Queen because, Hans Christian Andersen wrote the Snow Queen, who else is based off of, so we can scoot past that little copyright law. But we call her the Snow Queen, and kids always say, oh, she's not a princess, she shouldn't be here, she's a queen. And I think kids notice that a lot. And so I guess when I think of her now, I don't think of her as a princess. I sort of think of her as like one more mature step above whatever the princesses fall into. I have her on my list here, but yeah, kids definitely call her a queen.
She's up there with the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. She's in that class.
Cold.
Yeah, I mean, technically, queens are still princesses. But then by that logic, yes, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland.
She's a Disney princess.
Mm-hmm.
Alice in Wonderland is actually one of the princesses of hearts. Okay, hold on. Why is Alice a princess?
She can't be.
Well, why is she not, you mean?
No, is she a princess? Never mind, because I think she is in Kingdom Hearts, and that one never made sense to me. But anyway, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So Elsa is a prince. Well, she's a princess for most of the movie, and
just the beginning.
For like 2 seconds of the. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was my bad.
But yeah, she embodies all the principal characteristics of a Disney princess, and so she definitely. Yeah, number one, she is technically a princess, being a queen. It's just kind of a semantics thing. And then, yeah, she's, she looks like a Disney princess. She's one of the few to actually have magical powers, which is interesting. And for me, like, she's number one because of, her voice, her journey, the musical number, Let It Go, it's incredible. And like the reconciliation at the end of that film between the two characters, Elsa and Anna being my number 1 and 2, is one of the most powerful moments for me in all of cinema. So yeah, I'm very partial to Elsa.
A moment that I can't even bring to mind. I feel so bad. I'm sorry.
Philip's like the number 1 fan of Frozen, so I knew he'd want to talk about this first.
Yeah,
and
I don't even think that. That movie got so much recognition, and it was like honestly like a revolution and brought a bunch of people like back into loving Disney. Mm-hmm. But I really think that Rapunzel is so much stronger of a character that I'm surprised that, because I think, did Tangled come out 2 or 3 years before Frozen?
Tangled was 2010.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was surprised that more people didn't fall in love with Tangled in comparison to Frozen. And I don't know if it's just that power ballad or if it's the costume change or the two princesses, but yeah, I don't know.
You can count
I
me
thought
as one of those who prefers Rapunzel over.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to discount.
it's still amazing. Absolutely.
There are all these
but
like cool moments in Frozen
Right.
that like, easily stand
Mhm.
out, but overall, in the big picture,
Yeah. I mean, Frozen is, and that's part of why I love it so much. It's an exceptionally stylish film. And some of the, like, it sort of also embodies a bit of a minimalism with sort of that Scandinavian, just rural culture, and ice. Ice is like a very reductive element. And, you know, it's all about kind of perfection and, you know, precision. And yeah, like, it is a power ballad. Idina Menzel's voice, I've since gone on to really love Idina Menzel. And speaking of style, here's one little thing I'll throw out, which is my little fan fiction in my head of where I think the Frozen universe should go. I think it'd be super cool if like Elsa could create like an ice lightsaber type of thing.
like Hiccup and How to Train Your Dragon.
Exactly.
Oh my
It'd be
gosh.
freaking sick.
Or the owls in Guardians of Ga'Hoole with their icicle swords.
Yeah, just to think of her like procuring a sword made of ice just out of thin air. That'd be like the
She can make
coolest image.
an entire suit of armor, but they won't do that because that's too cool.
Well, we'll see. That's my one pitch for today.
And the final boss of the movie is she has to go up against the Lord of the Flame, Sid the Sloth.
No, they should have dragons.
They should. I agree. An ice dragon, like with the Night Kings. Anyway, okay. Well, yeah, Jody, or did you talk about why Elsa is where she is on your list?
Yeah, I mean, I think she was kind of middle ground. She was in my second section of 5. I kind of like did 5, 5, 4. I think, I mean, it's the same reasons that Philip likes her. I like her, but as far as her storyline, I guess I just didn't connect with her as much as I did the other ones. And I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Elsa. Not very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I think I try to, when I think about Let It Go, I really have to like separate my annoyance and just burnout of it from like the acknowledgement that like it is a really phenomenal piece, and that in the movie, like when it happens, that is a really cool moment. It definitely moved me the first time, but then you hear enough theater majors singing it in the halls for a year and it really starts to grate on you. I think Elsa has a cool moment where I thought she was about to kill a guy. Like she had what was that moment with the crossbow?
Yeah, she was being attacked by 2 guards wielding crossbows, and like she's about to push one. Yeah.
Into an icicle like blade, right? Like
over a cliff.
Yeah. And I wish she had done that. If she had done that, she would be a lot higher on this list. But no, I mean yeah, I basically feel pretty passé about her. I mean, she's very stoic, she's very serene. She ignored her sister by my understanding for absolutely no reason, for
to protect her, I think is what they try to say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like that doesn't make any sense. Hey, sister, best friend, so I've got these powers, let's talk. And then they could have had a conversation and then been friends for the rest of it. So that just the whole premise of Frozen, I think, is on thin ice. But no, and like Philip was, I mean, like the precision and I really, that's a really cool way of putting it. Like everything that this kind of like whole concept or style to, you know, Scandinavia and who she is as a person and her powers and her whatever. That's probably why Bella's number 1 on my list, because I'm a huge Hermione Granger fan. Anytime that like intellect is the number 1 quality like in a girl, I'm like there, and I really like want to know what they do with that character. And obviously she is like, I mean, the most beautiful girl in town, but like she's also known as being odd and is a bookworm, and her father's crazy and a genius. So yeah, I think, and that's just why I've always kind of loved her for that reason, that she's the smart one, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Elsa's reported to be like very intelligent, and there's a lot that is undefined about their backstory, which I like. I kind of leaving a lot of that open to interpretation, and instead I feel like the film explores a lot of the like really subtle latency of emotional trauma that can build up over like seemingly innocent gestures or circumstances, just that pure fact of them being sort of estranged from each other, at least emotionally, throughout their upbringing, and how that has an effect on a person and their psychology. And I thought that was handled really well in Frozen. And I feel like I mean, you're my brother, and like even in our family, like our relationships to each other, I think have followed similar paradigms in certain ways as well. And it's sort of a similar case for a lot of like America, where we aren't a very affectionate country, and like physical touch is sort of frowned upon. We can be very just apathetic sometimes.
Right. And you kind of, and I agree with all of that, but in Frozen, it's like just so cut and dry. They haven't made I mean, it leaves it as if it's enough to believe that they simply did not contact each other for 10 years or so, until suddenly the day of their coronation and they're talking, and it's
no
weird.
I mean, if
not
you
quite sure how they ended up there, or a little more,
it could be a little more clear
understanding of their backstory. I would have
I think the sequel's gonna go into that. I was reading, I mean, obviously right now it's just like ideas, but I heard that the sequel's gonna go into those blank areas a little bit and have more flashbacks into their childhood. So maybe we'll find out.
I think because like that's enough to base the story off of. Like, people really like love the sister dynamic. Like, there doesn't have to be one princess, one prince. Like, the story doesn't have to be about that. It can be about something different, something more, something familial. So okay, that's exciting. I mean,
I feel like their dynamic would have been a lot different if it would have been just a straight up seclusion from one another. Like, they would have just been like super awkward and unfriendly with each other.
And it was kind of at the coronation.
It was awkward, but it wasn't like they were resentful towards
no each other. And I did, because I didn't really know what to think. We don't have to beat that horse, but like during like I didn't know how to interpret what was going on, because I didn't have enough of a basis to form an interpretation, I guess. But
this segues into our Anna discussion too. She's number 2 on my list. And for Jody, she's much higher up on your list. So I definitely want your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it earlier, but Anna makes it up into the top 5. And I think it's just because she's so relatable. Aside from Rapunzel, I would think that Anna's the only princess that kind of says things and then retracts them. So she kind of, her brain is clicking before her mouth can keep up, or maybe it's the opposite. Do you know what I mean? And I find that really endearing in a character. She bumps into Hans. Philip, you might remember this scene better, but she bumps into Hans and she's like, "Oh, you're handsome," and I'm awkward, or she says something like that.
Yeah,
you're gorgeous. Wait, what?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
That scene. That's when she really, to me, like, I was like, okay, this is a girl I want to get behind, because she was sort of unlike Cinderella and Aurora and Snow White, and I mean, honestly, almost all of them. She makes mistakes with her words, and she's a little jerky and a little bit not graceful. And I think a lot of girls can relate to Anna and Rapunzel in that sense, because I think before that, it maybe the other princesses do it, but it's like few and far between. Whereas with Anna, it's who she is not this refined, perfect thing.
That's very well put. Can we all kind of agree that like the older classical Disney movies and the older classical Disney princesses, they have this archetypal beauty? Like, I really appreciate those films, but I think all of those princesses ranked fairly low compared to the more modern ones. Like, the more modern princesses all have just more well-defined characters, and I've always found the older ones generally more boring. Especially Snow White. I can't stand Cinderella. I'm sorry, that whole movie is so boring, and the mice, you can't understand a word they're saying, so that's annoying. And then Snow White, I don't even remember Aurora, though, like I love like the waltz, I Know You in the Forest, and like her,
Mhm.
she does some things that are really fun. And even though she ends up asleep on a bed, and of course the Prince Philip fight with the dragon, that's one of the best moments in all Disney. But
Mhm.
anyway, we all rank them fairly low, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, so next up is Merida from Pixar in 2012. Merida is a Scottish princess. She's 16. And yeah, what are y'all thoughts on Merida?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Brave.
No, so this
Mm-hmm.
one's all Dawson.
I love a wild redhead. I do. But I remember being maybe more excited to see this Pixar film than like any Pixar film ever, because it's a Scottish redheaded woman holding a bow, and I love archers. I love Scotland. I was ready for like the Braveheart of Pixar movies, and then it ended up being about a girl and her mom who was a bear, and so I was utterly let down by that film, and I have no desire to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, one of the things I thought about it was, this is a good movie for mothers and daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, that's fine. I mean, maybe, whatever, but just the story was not compelling really at all for me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, she doesn't sing. She's voiced by Kelly MacDonald, Scottish actress. One thing you might recognize her from is Harry Potter. She played the Ravenclaw ghost in like the Deathly Hallows Part 2, I think.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the ghost of Helen. It's like her daughter, the daughter.
Okay, Helena Ravenclaw.
Yeah, Helena.
But yeah, she doesn't sing. I mean, I enjoy the character Merida. Yeah, we briefly talked about this, but yeah, the film was somewhat disappointing. It did get the best animated film Oscar over Wreck-It Ralph that year.
Yeah. I call fake news on that. But Pixar has to get it, so.
Well, it's certainly, disappointing for Pixar is still pretty competent as far as a film. Like, I would rather watch Brave than a lot of animated movies out there. And I've seen it a couple times.
I wouldn't, because I'm realizing how many Studio Ghibli movies I haven't seen. So like, I need to make it through all those before I'd watch Brave again. But
certainly.
I have to say, I meet like thousands of kids and nobody knows her name. They all think she's called Brave, and not many kids even notice when she's not there. I would say she's probably like the least favorite of all children of the top 14. Like, I don't think kids know about her.
Hey, look,
I don't think a lot of kids watched her.
She's the redheaded stepchild.
Definitely.
Of the Disney princesses.
Oh, that makes sense.
I gave my mommy a cake, she turned into a big bear. My Alden tried to dare in. If that's not a pure mess, I don't know what is.
We can't understand her. She's from the other studio.
Ralph breaks the internet.
So next up is Rapunzel from the movie Tangled, released in 2010, based on the German folktale. Yeah, Rapunzel is 18 in the film. In fact, a large part of it is set on her birthday. And yeah, we've talked about Rapunzel a little bit, but she's number 3 for me, number 1 for you, Jody. So clearly you have a strong connection. Mm-hmm.
And she's number 3 for me if we remove Kyrie from her spot at number 1.
So yeah, we all are big fans of Rapunzel here.
And technically, I probably like her better than Elanwi from the Black Cauldron, if purely objectively. But I was just so excited about being different, and I love Elanwi so much. Anyway.
Yeah, masterfully voiced by Mandy Moore.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I mean the music. I mean, same with Moana. Like, she has some great ballads. Moana does, and then Rapunzel. Like, I really love the "I See the Light" song. It really brought back memories of like classic Disney musicals, and it had been
that
a while.
Duet is like as good as anything out there, in my opinion. I mean,
Alan Menken returned to score for Tangled.
I was just going to say that I love the score. I could listen to their soundtrack constantly. I think, okay, I don't know if should I just talk, but I just want to say, like, the thing I found like the best about Rapunzel compared to the other princesses is I feel like she's like more self-aware of like a dream ending when it comes true. And I don't remember exactly what the phrase is that she says to Flynn, but she's basically saying like, what if I get to see these floating lanterns and it's not everything that I hoped for? And then he kind of tells her like, that's the beauty, is you get to like pick a new dream. And I don't think any of the other princesses ever have that fear of getting what they want and being less than content with it. And I thought that again was just like a really relatable note, is like there's a lot of us who have a dream or set a goal, and sometimes we reach it and it's strangely like not what we hoped for. And I liked that she was just really aware of those types of things. I mean, I love everything about Rapunzel, but that was my favorite part of who she was, is she leaves that tower and she kind of knows that it could be the beginning of the end of something.
Yeah.
Brilliantly said. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some real heavy moments in Tangled. Like, she gets subject to some pretty nasty abuse in that film.
And manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like the scene when like she's holding I mean,
those scenes are painful to watch her.
What? Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful moment, and like definitely dark for a Disney movie, but definitely a true return to form for Disney animation, and like the return, or at least the first, like she was the first computer animated Disney princess, and it was the most expensive Disney animated film, largely because of all the research and development that went into just coming up with a style that was acceptably reminiscent of the original 2D style.
I'm still blown away by Jody's analysis there. That was really something.
So next would be The Princess and the Frog, released in the year 2009, featuring the Disney princess Tiana, voiced by Anika Noni Rose. Tiana is 19 years old in the film. It's about her, I guess, a loose adaptation of the Frog Prince fairy tale. I know she's number 13. She's kind of lowered down, but obviously still love the character.
She spends too much time as a frog, though.
I was just going to say that, Dawson. I think the Frog Princess is like one of Disney's biggest mistakes. Like they have, and I don't know if I can talk about race, but they have one African American princess and she's a princess for like 2 minutes. She's a frog the entire time. She's second to the last on mine, which is disappointing because I love her, but the movie is, I mean, I don't know who wrote that movie, but it sucks. I hate that movie. I think it's bad. I mean, I just don't think it's good at all. I think that they picked like the worst time period and the worst like situation to
really
put an African American
all the way around.
And I wish they would have thought it through a little more. Yeah, it's very bizarre. It's like, here she is, this person of color that can like stand out and be a role model for all these little girls, and you make her green. What? I don't know. It was such a tragedy to me. I don't even want to talk about it. I think it's really sad.
No, yeah, I'm more or less with you. I mean, there were like moments, like I guess structurally the story maybe works, and like the little bug who is in love with the star, that's like cute.
Sweet,
there's like there's cute moments and stuff, but I mean also just like an oddly horrifying like villain for children, like in this. It's like this movie that doesn't work, and so like as you just said, like it's a mess, and then also like children were screaming and crying when I saw it in theaters. I'm like, what audience? For? Like what? I mean, I thought that was cool that it was so like hell like scary, but I mean, so
the voodoo.
But like why voodoo? Why this region? Why this time period? Why what? Anyway,
the worst.
I don't know.
Philip, have you ever read the reviews on it? Do you know if other people are like similarly disappointed, or if it's just us, or I don't know what other people had to say about that movie, but I'd be interested if someone thought it was amazing.
It has a good aggregate score of critics on Metascore. IMDb, it's got a 7.1, so it's very well regarded. But yeah, it does have some.
The story like works, which I think it technically does. I'd still just like don't care for it, like, and I don't really ever feel like a need to watch it, like, or want to watch it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's also a film by Ron Clements and John Musker, and like they've had a long and storied career at Disney, and they've had their hits and misses, but I mean they were responsible for The Little Mermaid, which is just such a phenomenal success, as well as Aladdin too. Like two of the biggest hits of the Disney Renaissance era were Ron Clements and John Musker films.
No question, they're pretty brilliant. Were they responsible for Atlantis?
No, Treasure Planet though, which was a disappointment.
What? No, Treasure Planet's phenomenal.
I enjoy it. I
mean, disappointed in the box office. Yeah, and Captain Amelia is one of those, like, I thought of her and I'm like, oh, no, she's not a princess, but she's amazing.
Mm-hmm. They also did Hercules too, and The Great Mouse Detective.
I forget about Hercules. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Megara's not really.
Okay, then I guess I want to take back what I said about them not taking the time to make this movie, because clearly they did. It just didn't hit with me because I mean, clearly they tried, but I just thought it was disappointing.
There's a certain amount of regret on the part of the Disney brass at the naming of the film, The Princess and the Frog, like what we were saying about like how naming conventions have sort of changed to suit a more general audience of both boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
What were they going to call it? Frogged.
They could have called it like Hop or something, like Tangled, Hopped. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Warty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Testicle metaphor.
That's the
original story. Anyway.
Oh, interesting. Well, it was pretty funny how Ralph refers to him as Frogger.
Oh, yeah. Frogger. I love that.
Okay, so next up, we go from 2009's Princess and the Frog to 1998's Mulan.
We had that many years without a princess?
Yeah.
We had Home on the Range, though, with a couple cows. It was horrible.
I remember loving that movie, but I haven't seen it. I remember thinking it was the funniest thing. Oh my gosh. We had Bolt, too.
It was probably fun. I mean, The Emperor's New Groove, like...
Oh my God, Emperor's New Groove. Yzma is my favorite princess. That's one of the best. Okay, so they just did a lot of random movies. Anyway, we're talking about the princess. Mulan. We're on Mulan.
Yeah, she's 16, voiced by actress Ming-Na Wen, singing voiced by Lea Salonga, who also provided the singing voice for Jasmine.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And I think she's uncredited too, like in the actual credits of the movies. But on IMDb, that's
Mulan
what it says.
only sings one song, right?
Yeah.
And Jasmine only sings in I Can Show You the World, or whatever that's called.
Yeah, they don't sing that much. I think Mulan sings in more than just the one song, but she
a girl
has,
we're fighting for. How about a girl who's got a brain? And always speaks her mind? Nah. I love Mulan. I love everything about it, and I love the character Mulan. I guess she's just not in my top 5, and she's definitely not in my lower 5. But anyway.
Yeah, she kicks butt, but there's not as much emotional resonance for me. I love her song Reflections. Jody, what do you think?
She's in my bottom 5. And it's probably a silly reason, but I think when I was a kid, I didn't understand how brave it was of her to go to war. I guess I didn't really have a concept of what it would mean to sacrifice your life for your dad. And now that I'm older, I appreciate her more, but I guess I sort of based my list off of my impulse thoughts of the movie. And unfortunately, my second grade impulse thoughts were, why does she want to look like a boy? So now honestly, if I had to rate them off of how I feel about them now, she'd probably be a lot higher up. But when I originally watched the movie, I'm probably on the same page as you, Philip. I thought it was good. I thought she was awesome, but I didn't it didn't impact me. It was just this story.
That's another phenomenal point too. I mean, like Chinese honor culture, what kid knows anything about that? And so I never really understood the significance of the story as a kid either. I loved, that she had a sword and there was a big, the avalanche scene was always just so gripping. And it had all these things that I liked as a boy. And then I have come to appreciate, like you said, what she does for her father, and of course the scene when she's preparing, and that there's that like epic synth music or whatever. That's so BA.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird having Eddie Murphy as sort of a proto donkey in the form of Mushu.
Oh, I love Mushu. Is that like a non-cool thing to say, or?
No. I mean, he's a well-liked character. He just sort of, shifts the tone a little bit.
Hey, Stony. when he's trying to awaken the great stone dragon, Mushu, have you awoken him yet? And then he pops up with the stone and out of the bushes and talks to George. Good, so much good stuff.
Fun fact: Mulan has the highest kill count out of any Disney princess. She's responsible, for the deaths of approximately 1,995 is what I read.
So the Riders of Rohan.
Well, it's funny because like at some point in some like reference book, it says like, oh, he's got a 2,000 man army, and so someone literally took that to mean 2,000 to the T. So like when she wipes out,
why not
with the avalanche?
Well, no, and it's so funny because in the Two Towers, Aragorn says to Theoden, you've got 2,000 riders out in Rohan abroad, and then both these armies of 2,000 horsemen have a scene where one rider appears at the precipice of a hill, and then his whole army fans out alongside him. And I love any time there's a scene like that in any movie, and Mulan did it so epically. That's just such a freaking scary and awesome. How many men does it take to deliver a message? What?
Oh my gosh, that part is really scary.
So sick. Once I finally figured out what's happening in that scene.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, so cool. I mean, yeah, really scary. Shan Yu, the grappling hooks.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So she causes the avalanche that wipes out the army, and then there's 6 guys who emerge, including Shan Yu, and then later in the movie she kills Shan Yu. So
wow.
That's so hot.
Dawson slowly moves her up the list.
I'm thinking about it now. Anyway, she should probably be higher than Jasmine anyway. I don't.
Oh no, Jasmine's amazing too. We just haven't talked about her yet.
She is.
So next up, 1995's Pocahontas. So another film that's named after the princess. And she's high on my list, mainly because of the music. But as far as the film goes, it's not my favorite.
I think I really like it as a film. And now that I'm thinking about it, I have Pocahontas higher than Mulan. I should switch that around.
She was number 6 for me, so she's not very high up or very low up. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Oh, no. She's voiced by Irene Bedard. Singing voice is provided by Judy Kuhn, and at the time of the film, she's 18. I mean, I just like her free spirit. A lot of real powerful messages about breaking out of just the same old mold. Embracing change, embracing nature, and kind of going back to one's roots as a human instead of just conforming to all the standards set by society. I mean, she's kind of rebellious, but at the same time, has all the great qualities that you expect to find in a Disney princess.
Yeah, I would say for me, Pocahontas, I like the themes of, colors of the wind, getting in touch with nature, things like that. But she's actually one that I would probably take off my list if I could, just because I think, and I've always sort of felt like this, especially with the events that we do, we don't have Pocahontas, just because she's the only princess that's based on someone who truly existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people can go back and forth about this, but I don't know if Disney did the best job keeping it accurate. And I think if they wanted to have Pocahontas as a princess, they would have, they still could have had her, but they could have done something different with the story, and maybe just Pocahontas pre-John Smith or something like that. So I don't know. I love the movie, but now that I'm an adult, I don't love the movie. Do you know what I mean?
I keep hearing that too. And I guess, and I don't know enough about the actual history to totally, So I'm still like, well, I like this movie. I don't have a reason to not like it, but like once I know more, I'm sure I would agree with that, because I do keep hearing that. A great companion, of course, to the Disney Pocahontas is Terrence Malick's The New World, where, fun fact, Christian Bale plays. He might even play like the same character in both the Disney version and then in the Terrence Malick live action.
Really, I didn't know that. That is a fun fact.
Yeah, the redheaded dweeb who murders Cocoam, like one
really.
Of the best. That's Christian Bale.
That is the best thing I've learned on this whole podcast. I think that's really interesting. And I do like Pocahontas. I'm not trying to say I don't like the movie. I just think as an adult now, I'm a little more like woke.
It certainly isn't. Yeah, it's not faithful to history really at all. It just happens to be kind of a Romeo and Juliet story that happens to insert characters like Pocahontas and John Smith, people in history, but yeah, the story just doesn't really have much resemblance.
Is she the only princess that's based off of a real human and named after a real human?
Mulan is like a classic Chinese legend, but I don't think it's clear whether she was a real person. So yeah, in terms of like a confirmed historical figure, Pocahontas is the only princess.
Right. And she's amazing. She's amazing. I just think it's funny that they chose to make a movie about Pocahontas. They should have just called her something else, and then the movie would have been a lot stronger, probably.
Well, I think they were on this roll where they were like starting to do that more. Like they had done the fairy tales, and then they were like, well, let's do a Greek god, and now let's do like a classic novel, which was Hunchback of Notre Dame. And they're like, we really love doing this classic historical drama epic pieces, so let's do Pocahontas, our first historical
princess.
And then
Pocahontas preceded both Hunchback and Hercules, but it's possible,
that was their train of thought. Maybe
they could have developed.
Pocahontas came out after Hunchback, didn't it?
No, Hunchback was 96, but they might have like been developed around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And like Pocahontas was also meant to be sort of the prestige picture of that production cycle over The Lion King, which came out the year before. But
Pocahontas was supposed to be their like Oscar winning, Braveheart. But Lion King is kind of the king.
Yes,
is
by
Nala
far.
Princess?
I was actually going to ask that. If Nala's a princess, I might need to rearrange my list again, because Nala is amazing.
You need to get your cosplayers on that. Get some.
I bet I have someone who's done Nala. I would have to look though.
Some furries.
Yeah, I mean, you could make a case for it. I don't know. I just think that they're going to have to come out with the Disney Princess spin-off movie now. And so like my elevator pitch would be just like all the main princesses versus all the reject princesses who are like wanting to take over the title of, the fairest of them all.
Who are the reject
princesses? So like Nala could be one.
Like where they all.
What's that?
Nala's not a reject. She becomes the queen in the Pride Lands.
I mean, princesses, they're like technically princesses or would have like a claim to
the product line versus everyone else.
Exactly.
Like Meg from Hercules.
Yes. She couldn't be bothered with anything that dramatic, but no.
Nobody knows about this movie, but like Strange Magic. Remember that movie?
The George Lucas one? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not Disney, is it?
So, I mean, Disney owned Lucasfilm at the time of its release, and it stars two princesses, like fairy princesses, as the main characters.
If I recall, one of them
remember
at least
this.
is very attractive, but I've never heard anything else.
Yeah. Evan Rachel Wood plays the lead character, Princess Marianne, and then she has a younger sister who gets like bewitched.
Was it good, or was it really dumb, like the movie Epic, which
it was
potential to be epic?
It was really silly, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, it wasn't really epic. It was just more of a romance told around music, and like it was a pop music soundtrack. So
Oh my God, you just described everything I hate. Like, there's always that one scene where the bugs start jamming to some pop song. The entire film was that.
Yeah, it was a jukebox musical.
Oh, so it was real pop songs, not like made up pop songs.
Yeah. They were just singing. It was like Mamma Mia.
Oh, for the love. Okay, interesting. That could maybe work. Anyway, we should get going with the real princesses.
Next up is Jasmine, and she appeared in the film Aladdin, of course, from 1992. Her nationality would be Iraqi, and she is apparently 15 years old.
Oh no.
Yeah, voiced by Linda Larkin, as well as Leah Salonga for the singing parts. So I mean, she is my number 10 here. She was always kind of like the cool princess because she was in a movie that wasn't based around a princess.
Right. And she has the best outfit. Is that kosher?
I was just gonna say, I feel like she has to be number one for Dawson, because I would say Jasmine's the hottest princess that they ever made ever.
She
like when she's in
has.
her red costume.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Talk about spring awakenings for little Dawson. I mean that. Yeah. No. Like I always would like.
She's in my top 5 though. Yeah, I like her.
She's
well. That's such a great song too. A Whole New World is just it was like the Let It Go of its time for sure.
Except it's really irritating because they fly past the Eiffel Tower to indicate Paris, and that wouldn't have been around yet.
Really? So. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen the movie a million times. It is very like weird. I mean, first of all, it doesn't make sense that they'd be able to make it around the world in the course of a single evening or night.
It's a magic carpet ride. Like, I'd love to see Santa go up against that.
It can not only go through like hyperspace, traveling at the speed of light, but also like through time as well. So
yeah, and her hair still looks perfect after this crazy ride. That's the weirdest magic of all. Like if you're going that fast on a magic carpet, your hair would be destroyed. We really should have done a podcast about how Disney hair expectations are just like way too high.
That could be the next. Yeah, we should do a specifically Disney princess hair, and that has been getting spoofed more and more lately. Like in Wreck-It Ralph 2, Pocahontas's hair is always moving and has like.
Oh, I love that. That's funny.
Jasmine has a very, I feel like, influential moment in cinema where she has the line, in response to the bickering men, I am not a prize to be won. She really wants to take control over her own destiny, and I think that's like definitely a big part of what makes her so great.
Yeah, she refuses both the men, even though Jafar's beard is so twisted. I love that. That's the best.
I love that part too. I don't know if you guys have listened to the soundtrack for Aladdin. It's like a Broadway musical now, and I think Alan Menken did all of it basically. But they make her even more independent and even stronger in that Broadway musical, and I think that's why she's number 5 for me. I mean, she even in the Disney animated one, she's I would say the most spirited, and like you said, that scene where she's like, I'm not a prize to be won. Like the only other person that maybe echoes that would be Elsa, which was like decades later, but she really is like strong against marrying someone who doesn't love her.
Yeah, I would say Belle the same thing, because she's like totally doesn't go in for Gaston, and then she totally rejects the Beast at first too, but then once she sees the good in him or whatever. I mean, I love that she breaks out of the castle and disguises herself as a peasant in the adventure she goes on with Aladdin, and like trying to help the little children, like getting to know the peasants. She's a very noble individual.
How that parallels his longing to like be inside the walls of the castle, while she's like, she's had enough of that life.
Star-crossed.
So moving on to Belle from 1991's Beauty and the Beast. Belle is aged 17. It's a French fairy tale voiced by Paige O'Hara for dialogue as well as singing. And yeah, Dawson, you should start in on Belle. She's your favorite Disney princess.
Yeah, what can I say? I mean, I've always loved Beauty and the Beast. I think it's probably my favorite Disney animated film. It was the first one to be nominated for, it was the first animated film ever to be nominated for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Just that opening image and the opening orchestral score like really sets the tone for the adventure that you're about to go on. And she's got a great song right off of the bat, and Gaston's a great villain, and nobody else really seems to like her. She's very, she's a reader. She's smart. She's extra. Oh, her sacrifice, for her father, like all that bit's really good. And then she, how she stands up to the Beast and doesn't give into his horribleness, I guess. And I don't know. I just really feel for her through the entirety of her journey all the way. Up to the end. And I mean, a lot of people, it annoys me. I know where they're coming from, but it annoys me every time everyone says, oh, it's the syndrome. What's the syndrome?
Stockholm syndrome?
Stockholm.
It's a movie about Stockholm syndrome. And it's like, no, no. There's a guy trapped in this monstrous form who she helps to reform. I think. I mean, it's anyway. I don't really want to get into the whole depths of it right now, but it's not that simple at all. So, and Jody, you have thought of it. So, what do you think about? Belle?
My thoughts on. Yeah. I think the reason why the three of us might find Belle so relatable is, if I can speak for the three of us, we're all pretty adventurous and pretty, big dreamers, and Belle is that as well. And being isolated sort of in a small town and just feeling this potential inside you, and this, you kind of know about this outside world, but you can't seem to get to it, whether it's because your family's in this small town or your job or whatever's holding you back. So I think that's the reason why, for me, Belle was really, again, relatable, like what I said about Rapunzel and Anna, is just because she's kind of trapped in that place. And then, she gives up her freedom again to another extent to save her father.
Right. She gets to a place outside of the known world, and it's not through circumstances she wanted. It's worse. It's darker and scary. But then she meets the kind souls within that world, and and then she ends up having this beautiful, happy life, and then gives it up to try to go find and help her father, and then things get worse again, like with the whole raiding of the castle and everything, and so there's a lot of back and forth of the circumstances. It's a really a lot of conflict in that film at different times.
I think she's a great character, and I mean, like you guys said, with a lot of these movies, they get so high up on our ranking because of the music. And I think the music from Beauty and the Beast has to be some of my favorite. And, it shouldn't be all about the transformation, but there is that scene in the ballroom with her and the Beast where she sort of becomes, she's never a girly girl, but she puts on this ball gown and she has this really special moment. It's sort of like when Elsa transforms into her ice dress, but I don't know, like, who doesn't love that scene?
Iconic golden dress and that moment, yes. And the song
yes, all of it. I think she's great, and I think I could talk about Belle probably forever, but
same.
I think, like I said, we can all connect with her probably because of our upbringing a little bit. And now we're all in bigger cities, so yay.
Yeah, we didn't mention Jody and I are high school classmates, same graduating class and everything. So, all right. Well, so next up is Ariel from 1987's The Little Mermaid. She's number 5 on my list, just one above Belle for me. And my reasoning for that is just how Ariel is like the kind of definitive archetype of the Disney princess, especially the modern Disney princess, and like her struggle is just so like such a genuine like inner conflict for her. She doesn't have as much necessarily thrust upon her like Belle in terms of conflict, but it's just so like I love the introspectiveness of her character and how she seems to have everything. Like she starts out as royalty and a princess, but she has this one longing and one dream, and I think for a lot of us, growing up in a society where like we do have a lot of luxuries at our disposal that just weren't available several years ago. I mean, decades ago. I mean, we were all, spoiled in a sense. And it's kind of about this spoiled girl who finds really her coming of age. So yeah, Ariel, she's 16 years old in the film. It's a Danish story. And yeah, she's voiced by
Love
Jodie.
The original, by the way. Of all the fairy tales, like that one I've actually probably read and enjoy the most.
Hans Christian Andersen, is that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she's voiced by Jodie Benson as well.
Who also did Thumbelina, which I know isn't a Disney princess, but Thumbelina is voiced by Jodie Benson as well, and she is a spirited little character.
I
But
have to
that's
watch
kind of
that
off topic.
again. My fiance and I were just talking about Thumbelina, and we both really love it, but I don't remember it at all.
It's really cute. Yeah, she meets that prince. I mean, it's similar to a lot of these stories, but like same as Ariel. Like you always want something that you don't have, and I think she wants wings, whereas Ariel wants feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that I love when she hops up on the deck, and I mean the statue, she becomes in love with this man she doesn't even know, and like in a really powerful, really relatable way, where rather than this blind passionate love for another person, she really falls in love with an idea, and would give up everything to pursue that idea, to pursue that dream. I think is really cool. And it's cool how like she and Jasmine both like kind of want to get outside the palace walls, but Jasmine's dad is a doddering old fool, and Ariel's dad is the most powerful masculine tyrant like you can imagine. I mean, a nice guy, but like when he destroys her freaking stuff, oh my gosh, that's a painful scene.
Heartbreaking when her statue is destroyed and the head is on the ground.
That's deep. Yeah. Oh man. Heartbreaking. And Ursula's great.
Yeah. Part of Your World, such a great song. It's the quintessential
in Kingdom Hearts, though.
Yeah, it's the quintessential I want song, which is a common theme throughout Disney princess movies,
where you look in water and sing about what you want.
I mean, they kind of ruined The Little Mermaid a little bit by making that sequel where her daughter wants to be a mermaid. I didn't like that they did that with her, but yeah, Ariel was number 2 for me. And I think, especially when you're a little kid, the thought of it's so like dumb, but you just like the thought of like being a mermaid and actually living underwater, and that movie sort of taking you to the ultimate opposite world, whereas none of the other princesses live underwater, do they? Just her?
No,
she's the only mermaid. And I thought that also made it really magical. I'm hoping they're doing a live action of it, because it could be really beautiful. And I think just having it being set underwater was probably what made her so special and one of my favorites growing up.
Yeah, isn't it coming out this year? It's like starring Jason Momoa and
it's Amber Heard. Yeah, plays that princess.
Oh no, that's Aquaman. Silly me.
Yeah, on the Aquaman post, that her character is definitely a total rip of Ariel.
Definitely put on my spectacles and peered very closely at the screen when I saw that trailer. Who is this redheaded merwoman? Like, what?
I mean, it's a cool look.
It is.
Yeah. So
she's very hot.
That does it for like the modern princesses, and so now we get into the legacy princesses.
Skipping then.
Well, okay. No, you can talk about her. The Black Cauldron was 1985.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was, okay, so that, because it always seems like people talk about like Disney died with the Black Cauldron, but then it was revived by the Renaissance, which started with The Little Mermaid. It was only a 2-year difference. Like Little Mermaid came right after the Black Cauldron. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's not a very popular Disney movie at all. It kind of bombed. I think it cost the studio a lot of money. I think a lot of changes happened at that time. They really had to rethink what they were doing. It's not a musical. It's not very well remembered. It's not a faithful adaptation to the source material, which I really enjoy. Really, so much is not going for it, and yet I still think it's a very beautiful mess of a film. It's so epic. Well, it's not like as epic as it could be, but it's very dark. It has swords. It has cool characters. The Horned King is horribly scary, and there's lots of really scary dark stuff. It's the first PG Disney movie, and Eilonwy is a princess, and she has a British accent. I think she's the only Disney princess with a British accent, and she is absolutely adorable. Like she pops up. I was just watching the clip today. Like theoretically, the prince rescues her from a dungeon, right? But they're all locked in this dungeon, kind of wandering aimlessly, and she pops up out of a trapdoor and like looks at the little boy, and she's like, "Are you a prince?" And he's like, "No, I'm an assistant pig keeper." And she's like, "Oh, that's too bad. I was really hoping a prince would come and rescue me." And she's clearly like halfway through rescuing herself. And she just starts baiting him right from the beginning. And in the she's actually like, if you've read the series, the Chronicles of Prydain, which she's up there in my favorite like female characters in literature, kind of like a Hermione Granger type character, or just a really, really strong character. And that comes through somewhat in the film The Black Cauldron. She's probably not really worth as much mention as I've given her, but she's unique and often forgotten, and that's a bit of a shame because she's wonderful and adorable.
Anyway. Voiced by Susan Sheridan. Do you know how old she's supposed to be in the story?
No, I want to say that 16 region, and I heard the actress died actually.
Okay,
recently.
interesting. She unfortunately passed away in 2015.
Beautiful voice.
Yeah, I mean, she's such an appealing character. Incredible design. Like she's one of the prettiest princesses of the Disney lineup. But yeah,
someone
sadly
commented on YouTube like, she has my sister's 7th grade haircut.
Yeah, she's got an unusual haircut. That's true.
But yeah, her charm and her voice. And you have had cosplayers as Eilonwy at your events? Okay.
Oh, not at my events, no. But in the cosplay community, I have friends who have done her before. And she's so precious. Like, I can't really remember anything she says in the movie. I just remember the little Gertie guy who wants the apple.
Gertie.
Yeah, that's who I remember standing out from that one. But
there's all these wonderful characters, and the movie doesn't quite mesh them all. Like I said, the movie doesn't quite do anything quite right.
And she was number 2 for you? Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just totally a dumb personal thing. I recognize exactly that. Like, we've had so much to talk about with these other princesses, and again, I haven't even seen Black Cauldron in so long. There's probably
it's a good one to pick.
Yeah. Well, there are only 3 left to go, and like for me,
We're skipping Maid Marian from Robin Hood.
Yep. I didn't place
Dawson.
So he's a fox. I would not. A literal fox. Anyway, keep going.
So the art of the art of cinema has of course changed a lot since the 50s, which is where we'll be going next with Sleeping Beauty, Princess Aurora. Very pretty name. Huh. It's either French or German. There's some conflict on that. And she's voiced by the actress Mary Costa, age 16 in the film. That is literally stated in the curse, then left.
She'll prick her finger and die.
Yeah. And for me, like, she's relatively high on my list. She's number 8, kind of right in the middle. But and that's just because I love the movie so much. I watched it a lot growing up. Incredible music from, of course,
Tchaikovsky. Yeah,
Tchaikovsky,
because it was a ballet first.
That's right.
That's where the music's from, is from the ballet.
That's right. They based the film off of ballet. Crazy.
Yeah, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, Russian composer.
That man was an absolute. Sorry.
What's that?
Tchaikovsky was a freaking god. Like,
yeah, didn't he do? He did Black Swan and the Nutcracker. Yeah.
Wow.
Like the only ballets anyone's ever heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unless you're like in the dance community, I guess. But
yeah, and the art style of Sleeping Beauty is also really unique. Like, it was very panoramic. Yeah, the film was presented in Super Technorama 70 and 6-channel stereophonic sound in first-run engagements. First full-length animated feature film to be filmed in anamorphic widescreen following Disney's own Lady and the Tramp 4 years earlier.
The technological development that happened during the making of that movie is pretty phenomenal. I don't know a lot of the details, but like if you watch, it's got a lot of rich behind the scenes. Just the matte paintings in the backdrops of what the characters are interacting with is stunning.
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason why it's number 8 for me as well, because if I remember correctly, Aurora only has 18 lines in the whole movie, so there's not a lot of content to base your opinion of her on. You could probably Google it, but I'm pretty sure she has less than 20 lines throughout the film. So it's kind of hard to make her a favorite princess because she says very little.
I completely agree. She ended up as number 8 or 9. Well, number 8 for me as well. So, but
wow. She lined up for all of us there as very center.
Yeah, I mean, her character, I mean, we talked about the music, and she's sort of an innocent victim. And she, I don't know, has a good relationship with animals, similar to like we've seen in Snow White and Cinderella. Like, they both have relationships with animals. And she I think, Aurora particularly kind of set the mold for future Disney princesses in her appearance. Kind of that signature, like, angular facial structure, and just really thick eyelashes, and that regal kind of look about her.
Very true. Significant stylistic departure from Cinderella and Snow White.
Yeah. Everything for her is so much more angular. I don't know if you would call what you would want to call that art style, but
her waist is irritatingly impossible. She's
yeah. And even like how her hair curls, it's almost like everything is just more, from the castles to the characters, I feel like more angled.
Yeah, well, the designs of the Disney princesses have gotten more exaggerated as time has gone on. Like the original, Snow White and Cinderella were essentially just rotoscoped live actors onto animation cells. And then, of course, later on, nowadays, it's like these characters' heads and eyes and waists, they're all so disproportionate, but done so in a way to sort of maximize appeal and sort of maximize the attributes that are, attractive or expressive.
There is awesome footage of a girl who looks very much like Aurora dancing and doing a bunch of spinning moves, and there's like 3 artists with big canvases like drawing her movements, and
they definitely used live actors for the animation referencing in Sleeping Beauty as well.
You can see that angular style continue on in later films, like Roger in 101 Dalmatians. Looks just like her.
But yeah, like going back now 9 years to 1950s Cinderella, the second Disney princess. And of course, like there still probably was a sense of like the Disney princess icon back in, the popular culture of the time, because Disney was known for their fairy tales. But it certainly wasn't what it is now. And Cinderella, being the second of the Disney princesses, was so influential in establishing this this trope that we see recurring throughout the Disney fairy tales.
I mean, it's her castle. It's her. She's all over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Walt Disney World Castle, especially, is called Cinderella Castle. The one in Disneyland is actually called Sleeping Beauty Castle.
Mm-hmm.
Disney World, you said?
Disneyland.
Disneyland is Sleeping.
Yeah, it's Aurora there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think Cinderella was, I don't remember exactly, but the scene where the fairy godmother transforms her from basically the rags to the gown, that was Walt's favorite animated clip that they ever worked on. He said, I remember reading that about him once, is that his favorite scene was her transforming into the dress. And I think, I'm kind of like reflecting on this list of like the characters I like the most, and they all had like a major transformation, like Belle going from her peasant dress to her ball gown, Elsa going from her like normal clothes to her ice dress, and like Cinderella going from rags to the, I don't know, I just never really noticed that theme before with my favorites, is they all kind of go through that moment.
From tail to legs.
That Cinderella has.
And, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Does Moana put on an 18th century princess dress?
I don't. She has a slight wardrobe change at some point, I think, but
she puts on a headdress at some point, right? And some little bangles on her feet.
Mm-hmm. Cinderella may be the first Disney animated movie I saw like straight through as a child. So it was definitely a big part of growing up, but it's been the longest since I've seen it.
There's one great scene in Cinderella. It's so horrifying. It's like a David Lynch shot where it's this like extreme wide, way in the distance. The grandma is like sleeping or like sitting up in bed in the darkness, and Cinderella approaches from like so far away, and it's like she's like
stepmom. You mean?
Yeah, the stepmother.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what
I know exactly the scene you're talking about.
And it's so scary for like almost no reason. It's like really, really beautifully done.
Oh yeah. Definitely a lot of thought put into all the staging and camera work, really, lighting effects. And so, I guess the animation techniques that are meant to mimic camera work in all of these films. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, and in fact, like in our Mickey Mouse discussion, we forgot to mention the name Ub Iwerks, who was the animator of the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, and he did a lot of the animation by himself. He was such a pioneer in like camera techniques, or the framing techniques of early animation. The dude was just a total genius. He came to California with Walt Disney from Kansas or Missouri, where Walt Disney was from. And he was like the only one of Disney's colleagues who stayed exclusively loyal to Disney during like the whole Universal fiasco with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And then he would later go on to develop a bunch of new techniques much later on for the Walt Disney Studio, like the usage of Xerox photocopying for the film transfers, things like that. But yeah, Cinderella, just such a visually striking, moments of very innovative animation, like you're saying. And I loved like the moment with the bubbles, that musical.
Sweet Nightingale, she's like singing as she's washing the floors. The same song that the stepsisters just sang. I love that when her reflection shows up in all those different colored bubbles. That is a really good scene. I forgot all about that one.
Yeah, it's a really pretty moment. I think that's like kind of how I remember Cinderella, is like there are these moments. Not like a really like compelling driving narrative necessarily, but like and of course I can't stand the mice. Their scenes drive me bonkers.
They remind me of the Minions. I don't like them either. You can't really understand what they're saying. It's like a high-pitched noise, but like they're the comedic relief somehow from her abuse, and it's just like not that great. I'm thinking that Cinderella, I love her as a character, and I think that's why she's like in sort of the middle for me, but the movie itself, it never, I don't know, struck me as like a great story. And I'm like
Yeah.
you, Philip. I'm more familiar with their current version or the new version with Lily.
Lily James
and Hottie McHot Robert the Bruce, not Robert,
Rob Stark.
Rob Stark. Man, I love him. He's in that new Bodyguard show on Netflix. I'll have to check out. But the prince is really boring in the animated film. Like those first.
He doesn't even have a name.
No, Snow White and Cinderella, both of their princes, just trash human beings.
Yeah, Richard Madden, by the way.
Oh, Richard Madden, thank you.
You were talking about the princes from Snow White and Cinderella. One of them is like Prince Charming, and then the other one I think was given a name after the fact. But yeah, they're more side characters.
Well, I do appreciate just kind of the more like archetypal, simplistic, like closer to the. They're more like a fairy tale, just feature film length. Like, yeah, the princes don't need to have a name. They don't have to have a big role. They kind of just they function archetypally, like in those old stories. I mean, the princes they show up, they do a thing, they kiss the girl, or whatever. They don't have to have complex
personalities.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny if you look at the transformation of old princes to current princes, like Flynn Rider and I mean Kristoff. They're very distinct personalities, whereas in the past they weren't much of anything. Which is, I mean, that's kind of reflective in the princesses as well, the changing of the times. But they really meant nothing back then. Like, I don't think Prince Charming has any lines, does he?
Not in
but I can
Snow White.
Remember nothing that stands out to me.
In Cinderella, I think he might say "wait" or something, but
that would be it. Wait.
I mean, they both sing. I'm not that sure about the. Yeah, in Snow White, the prince.
I honestly can't say anything about Snow White because it's been years.
Oh, right.
Man.
Well, I mean, Cinderella. She's 19, according to.
She's up there.
Yeah.
She's so old.
It's a French fairy tale. Eileen Woods plays the voice of Cinderella. And I love how she's such an unimpeachable character in her like moral quality. She, just gets so downtrodden by, her step family, and
the core and heart of that story is so good and so compelling on its own way.
Yeah, her commitment to service and how that, how she's ultimately rewarded for her character. And like, I love the moment after she runs away from the castle and gets back to, her home, and she's kind of under the impression that this was just a one-off thing, and, it's over. Which she has every right to be like really upset that this thing, this one moment of bliss and perfection in her life has now just come to a screeching halt. But instead, she stops and just says into the air, "Thank you," and I think that's a really powerful moment.
I don't remember that, but the way you described it, sure.
Me neither.
Like...
It is a beautiful moment when you describe it.
Yep, she just has that one memento of the event, which is the last remaining slipper, and she chooses gratitude.
Talk about a girl who gets what she deserves.
So finally, the one that started it all, Snow White, from the 1937
the
film.
fairest of them all.
Yeah.
The most grating of them all.
Yeah, she ranks pretty low for me.
Okay. Yeah, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I love this movie. I mean, I watched it fairly recently, and it still holds up to this day, which is surprising for a movie from 1937.
I have to give it another shot. Yeah, man, seriously, it's been so long, and I remember thinking it's boring, but I'm sure now I'd like it a lot better.
I mean, it's surprisingly scary. A lot of just very chilling moments throughout the film. You know, the queen transformation, the escape through the woods. You know, Snow White's, she's like hallucinating monsters in the wood. That freaked me out as a child, and I'm sure many others as well.
The
She's
Huntsman's kind of scary.
yeah, the Huntsman too. I mean that yeah. But it's just so iconic. She's supposed to be 14 in the film. It's a German fairy tale. Snow White is voiced by Adriana Castellotti, and fun fact, she was paid $970 for the role, $20 per day, and was not allowed to voice any other fairy tale characters for the remainder of her acting career.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that at all.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, she had and they used to do these exclusivity clauses at movie studios, and thankfully they've gone away from that with the advent of actors unions. But back then,
you mean like, okay, you played our character, and now you cannot play any character like this?
Essentially.
What the poop? Why?
Well, do you guys remember Giselle from Enchanted, played by Amy Adams?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She did like the opposite. She basically said that if she played the character Giselle, that princess, that Disney couldn't do any merchandise basically based off of her. And they had her in the parks for maybe like a day or two, but they pulled her almost immediately because Amy Adams had like basically the opposite of what they had with Snow White. Amy was like, I'll own Giselle, like you won't. Do you know what I mean?
Why? Do you know anything?
So times have like changed a lot because it's true.
Her image to be marketed, or she didn't want her character to be marketed for some reason. Like,
maybe she had a really strict royalty deal that they didn't have when Snow White was made. But they don't have any merchandise with Giselle, and they don't have her meeting and greeting, even though she is the princess and people really wanted her.
Hence why I like pretty much forget about her, but I loved the movie. I mean,
it's great.
Who wouldn't want like a Lego figure of themselves? Like, why would you say don't? Interesting.
Well,
sorry, that was like off topic.
No, I mean, she's
I'm just saying
definitely,
the contracts have changed.
She's one of the forgotten princesses. I mean, have you seen Giselle cosplayers, Jody?
Oh yeah, I'll have to show you pictures after this. My friend Joanna Burt, she does Giselle in that big white puffy dress, like when she shows up in New York.
Oh.
And it's hilarious. I love Giselle, and if we would have had her on this list, she probably would have been right after Rapunzel, but she's not on our discussion. And Amy Adams probably wouldn't want us mentioning her because
Amy Adams, you're weird.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess you'd have to read more about it.
Idina Menzel was also in that movie, right?
Yes, she's kind of like not the wicked stepmother, but the stepmother that proves that stepmothers can be like nice. You know, like I think Amy Adams says something along the lines of like, not all stepmothers are bad or whatever, but they don't end up getting married anyway. So she's not really a stepmother, but she's the partner to the.
Gosh, I forgot how hot the animated Giselle is. This is crazy.
Top 10 for you, Dawson?
She's a 10, all right.
Yeah, I mean, she's reminding me of Anastasia actually from that film.
And is she Disney now?
Anastasia? Do they own her?
She's owned by 20th Century Fox. So she'll be owned by Disney once that deal is finalized.
Cool.
Yeah. And like Thumbelina, Anastasia was a Don Bluth film. Don Bluth had his own animation company that made a lot of the famous non-Disney films from the 80s and 90s. Though he used to work for Disney, he kind of split off and took a number of animators with him, and they formed their own studio, you know, churning out such hits as American Tail and Land Before Time. Yeah, that wasn't as successful. But Snow White is one of the most successful films of all time, adjusted for inflation. I mean, its domestic total gross would be over $1 billion. It was the film that put Walt Disney Studios on the map. It was their first feature film, and changed everything for Walt Disney and that whole company.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Who would have known?
Fun fact, and this is unfortunate, but apparently Adolf Hitler considered Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs his favorite film of all time.
Is that why people call Disney anti-Semitic? Because I hear that and I'm like, there's no way that's like true.
Well, I mean,
Hitler sitting there munching popcorn with Joseph Goebbels, like, I like this. Make
Oh no.
I love it.
I don't think that was it. I think there must have been some things that Walt said that maybe like, I mean, Philip, do you know? It has nothing to do with this, but I feel like Walt must have said a couple of things.
I don't think it has much to do with like the political content of Snow White. I think it was just such a striking film at the time. And I think a lot of people kind of had the position that it was just so interesting and visually stunning that it just so happened like he found the most artistically interesting film. Hitler did.
Yeah, who wouldn't love it? I mean, Hitler was a person too. And Woodrow
let's
Wilson
end the podcast on that. Dawson saying Hitler was a person too. Just really wrap it up strong.
Well, President Woodrow Wilson, a few years before Hitler loved Snow White, Woodrow Wilson's favorite movie was Birth of a Nation, the KKK film. So,
yikes! Another fun fact.
Well, this podcast just got.
Oh, sorry. There's not
derailed.
so much to say.
It's
about
my fault.
Yeah,
it's my fault because I brought up the Hitler thing. But I mean, yeah. I mean, no, I'm not going to talk about Hitler anymore. I'm going to delete that. But I mean, Snow White was definitely one of the more pitiful. One of the more.
What was Snow White? She was pitiful.
That was one of the more pivotal moments of American popular culture in the 20th century.
Of Aryan popular culture in the 20th century, yeah.
So, White is right.
White. Yeah. And the dwarves represent the mining. That's why Tolkien was racist too, because his dwarves were Jews. No. Well,
the dwarves, I mean, some of them don't necessarily have the biggest role, but I feel like they're all pretty well fleshed out for as many characters as that is to fit into one movie. Like they've got well-rounded personalities, and of course, they're named after certain kind of stereotypes, but they all kind of have their own arcs, especially like Grumpy. You can really see the impact that the introduction of Snow White to their lives really has. It's interesting to me how they're mining, they've got the famous Hi-Ho song. They're talking about, it ain't no trick to get rich quick when all you need is a shovel or a pick.
Dig with a shovel and a pick.
But where did all their wealth go? So clearly
that's all they care about.
They're not
getting high and ho.
Yeah.
Hi-ho. It's Blaze and we go. Oh my.
But they're not opulently wealthy. They just like to mine gems, apparently.
Don't they all sleep in the same bed? They don't have much. Their cottage is pretty bare bones, so
Very
they don't really
humble.
use the gems for anything.
They have their own beds. That's how she finds out their names.
Oh.
She's the only princess I can think of who is shown to pray on screen.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a scene where she's kneeling and praying, presumably to God. It's an interesting inclusion.
That's not going to come back to Disney movies anytime soon. So.
Oh. There's in the original Legend of Zelda game, there's images of Link kneeling before a cross, and on his shield he had a cross. He was originally this Christian knight in the earliest Nintendo games. So, like all things, there's.
So you say you don't really like her voice, though, Dawson.
Oh, I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
Who does?
I mean, it's oddly shrill, but that was maybe more in vogue at the time.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
and I guess she is only 14, so I don't know. They've got some good songs in that movie. Like, it really is. Yeah, I like the love song between she and the prince. One song, I have but one song, one love only for you. Yeah. The fact that I can't remember the title is, indicative that it's maybe not as high ranking on my list, but just the film overall, I need to rewatch it, but they put in so much work and effort into that early style of animation where like each frame has so much detail on it, and like they weren't able to keep up that level of attention to detail as like just the costs became exorbitant. So even like Cinderella, you can tell the animation, there just isn't quite as much motion and shading. Like each of the cells has Snow White's, her cheeks are individually shaded, they just, it's a lot of stuff that you just don't find in animation outside of that specific point in time.
It had Red Dead Redemption 2 level graphics, and then it all went. That was unsustainable.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it was kind of a result of, unfortunately, underpaying a lot of the employees who worked there at the studio. I mean, back then in Los Angeles, it only cost $17 to rent an apartment for a month. So they could afford to pay a lot of their staff, only a few dollars a day.
Wow. How times have
changed.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we've made it through this
long list,
long discussion, and
like three episodes. Right here.
Yeah, we're kind of recording somewhat late in the night. It's pretty late for you, Dawson, so you've had to sort of lower your tone. So, I mean, apologies to the listener if we've sort of become noticeably deflated over the course of the episode. But it's been a busy day, and like it's I mean, I've had a lot of fun chatting with you guys. So I mean,
this was an awesome discussion piece. So nice to have you, Jody. Your perspective is just angelic. So
oh, thank you so
Nice to
much.
see
No, I
you.
had a blast doing this. I wish I could do this all the time. Honestly, we could have just done one episode per character. We
Well,
probably could have gone on and on.
we do have the internet, so if you want to keep doing that, I mean, you could do a podcast.
I'll watch Wreck-It Ralph too, but I might miss it if you guys are recording tomorrow.
yeah, I don't know when we'll record our review on that, but yeah, I mean, if you're more
It's
than
been
welcome.
fun. Thank
Yeah, yeah.
You should be
And-
a regular. I'm just saying that now.
Well, hey, thank you so much for sitting through this. Let's see.
you.
We're so glad we had this time.
We should
Well-
sing a song to wrap it up, all three of us.
What song?
Let's
Well, we have to-
sing. Let's all sing our favorite princess song. And,
Okay. One. Oh,
Let's wait. We have to first pick one. We don't have to tell each other what it is.
I thought we were supposed to sing. Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Like our individual favorite ones, so that
At the same time, though.
Yes, at the same
Okay.
time. Hold on. I need to make sure I have the right one. Okay.
Philip's like, I'm gonna delete this. Are you ready, Philip? It's
Yep.
gonna be
Sure,
let it go for you, so
sure.
it's not hard.
Yeah,
Starting
let's
from the
go.
beginning.
All right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
The snow glows.
I can show you the
Great wide
shining,
Uh,
shimmering,
more
Oh, I'm
splendid.
lost.
Oh,
Good job, everybody. On that note,
Not a
viewers,
footprint to be
thanks
seen.
for
A
watching.
kingdom of isolation. Uh,
Okay, do your wrap-up thoughts. I can do mine if you want.
Yeah, so Jody, you're an official Disney princess, at least in my mind. So
Thank you.
what are your final thoughts on the this phenomenon that is the Disney princess?
You know, I love taking the time to reflect on all the different characters and what they've kind of brought to the table throughout the last, 5 decades.
Mhm.
Is that right? 5 decades? And just sort of, oh, what?
Technically, so 37, that's 70,
4 decades?
80, no, yeah, 81 years. That was
Holy.
81
Okay,
years ago.
I'm going to start my wrap up again.
Yeah.
I really like, and now it's not going to be natural, but I think it's really fun to take some time to reflect on these characters that really were milestones for our culture and I mean in our lives, and just taking time to really think about like what each character may have brought into our own worlds and how we see parallels between all of them or differences between all of them. I think it's a lot of fun. So I'm happy we kind of took this time to dig into them, because even though I work with princesses every single weekend, it's often the very surface level of it. And it's kind of cool to dig a little deeper into what makes them so unique and such great role models, I guess, throughout the past 81 years. And so thanks for having me here. And hopefully you guys will have me back again someday when you talk
man.
about princes or villains.
We would love that.
They're all coming up. Yeah, beautiful thoughts, Jody. So good to have you around.
This subject itself is such a resonant piece of our current popular culture, and it's great that we have these characters who can sort of transcend simple like childhood icons and sort of reach a broader audience, not just young girls but adults, boys. And we're seeing more and more characters, Disney princesses who do break barriers and break molds. And I think that's great that we're pretty much everyone is able to sort of have their own princess with whom they're able to most closely relate and resonate. And I mean, I'm sure Disney will just continue to explore, all facets of human understanding and human conflicts through these characters in the future. Who knows where the Disney princess will lead.
Beautiful.
And Dawson?
Yeah, I love the Disney princesses, more or less. I mean, I love most Disney movies that I've seen, and I love that they exist. I think it's there's a lot. It's really easy to just kind of see them as merchandise, but then to take the time to reflect, how did we get here? Where did we come from? What do these characters mean and represent? And I'm really interested in I like looking back and reflecting on like what are the difference between the pink and the blue, like what do because or just like princesses are for girls, one might say, and it's just it's not that simple, and it's fun to think about that. And
these are our modern fairy tales, many of which are based on classic fairy tales but updated for a more modern audience, but also stretching back, 81 years. That's crazy that we're still talking about a film that came out 81 years ago with Snow White.
Right.
And then
because the original fairy tale had been orally transmitted
11:30 at night. Orally transmitted. It's virality.
It had been it's a myth. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. These are powerful stories. They mean something. They reach to the deepest parts of our souls, honestly. Disney's been very good at tapping into that, and I hope they continue to be. Like maybe looking for like let's find a princess for everyone. I hope they just continue to tell really good stories, and really good characters are gonna come out of that.
Totally. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been the Thodcast, conversations about animation. stay tuned for more reviews on animated film and TV. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Dawson. Thank you, Jody. This is Philip Elke signing off.
Have a magical day, everyone.